The Grand Archive of the Galactic Assembly stretched endlessly into the dark expanse of space, its crystalline structures housing the collective knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. Archive Master Zena, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with anxiety, stared at the emergency transmission flooding every quantum display around her. The swarm had breached the outer defense ring of the Centauri cluster. 3 billion lives lost in mere hours. The Assembly's most advanced warships, pride of their peaceful civilization, had crumbled like leaves in a solar storm. The swarm devoured everything. Matter, energy, even light itself. "Show me the critical data points again," Zena commanded, her 4 arms moving gracefully across the holographic interfaces. The displays shifted, revealing footage from the last surviving scout ship. The swarm vessels appeared as living shadows, their surfaces rippling with impossible geometries that hurt to look at. Traditional weapons, antimatter cannons, quantum disruptors, even temporal phase shifts, seemed to strengthen them rather than cause harm. But there was something else in the data, something that made Zena's heart skip a beat, a pattern she'd seen before, buried deep in the forbidden archives. She initiated her emergency override, accessing files that hadn't been touched in centuries. "Computer, cross-reference swarm energy signatures with historical threat database, pre-assembly era," she ordered. The answer came almost instantly, making her skin flash pale with shock. They had faced this enemy before, not the Assembly. They were too young, too peaceful. But there had been others, civilizations that fought wars that made the current conflict look like a stellar nursery game. And one group in particular had not just fought but won. Zena's fingers trembled as she accessed the classified files. The coordinates were still there, preserved despite countless attempts to delete them. A bright yellow star, unremarkable except for its 3rd planet. A world so hostile that the Assembly had quarantined the entire system, marking it too dangerous for contact. They called it Earth. The inhabitants had been deemed too aggressive, too adaptable, too willing to fight. Their bodies could survive radiation doses that would kill most species. They thrived in atmospheric pressures that would crush others. Most terrifying of all, they seemed to enjoy conflict, actively seeking out challenges that would make any sane species flee. But now, facing extinction, those very traits might be exactly what the galaxy needed. Zena sent the emergency signal to the Assembly Council. Within moments, the chamber's quantum projectors hummed to life, manifestations of the most powerful beings in the galaxy appearing around her. Some were energy forms, others crystalline structures, and a few defied traditional physics altogether. Archive Master, First Speaker Helios began, his solar corona flickering with concern. "Why have you activated the emergency protocols?" Zena's skin pulsed with determination as she projected the ancient records. "Because I know how to save our civilization," she declared. "But you're not going to like it." The chamber erupted in chaos as the records played. Footage from Earth's history, their world wars, space race, and early conflicts with other species. The Assembly had watched them for centuries, believing them isolated on their death world. But the humans had been watching back. Impossible. Third Speaker Quantum Prime buzzed, their probability fields fluctuating wildly. "Our sensors would have detected any significant space force." "No," Zena corrected. "They wouldn't. Because humans don't think like us. They don't build their ships with elegant quantum matrices or zero-point energy cores. They build them to endure, to survive, to hit back harder than anything that hits them. And they've had centuries to prepare." She brought up the latest scans of the Sol system. What had seemed like asteroid fields were actually debris clouds concealing massive shipyards. Gas giant storms masked energy signatures of whole fleets. Every primitive satellite was actually a weapons platform in disguise. "We thought we were containing a dangerous species," Zena continued. "But we were actually giving them exactly what they needed: time to build, to plan, to prepare for a war they somehow knew was coming." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had a choice: maintain their isolation of Earth and watch their civilization fall, or ask the very species they had feared for help. Send the signal. First Speaker Helios finally ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of history. Let us pray the Deathworlders are in a forgiving mood. Deep within a mountain on Earth, in a chamber that officially didn't exist, a quantum receiver that hadn't activated in 300 years suddenly came to life. The message was simple: we need your help. The galaxy is dying. General Sarah Chen, commander of Earth's hidden fleet, allowed herself a small smile as she read the transmission. Humanity had waited centuries for this moment, building their forces in secret, preparing for the day the galaxy would need what Earth had forged them to be: warriors, survivors, protectors. She reached for the red phone on her desk, the one connected to every hidden base and shipyard in the solar system. Wake the fleet, she ordered. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can do. The war that would reshape the galaxy was about to begin. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood in the command center of the Hyperion, Earth's largest battleship, watching as 3 centuries of preparation came to life. Hidden shipyards across the solar system shed their camouflage, revealing vessels that would make the assembly's finest engineers weep. The Hyperion itself was a testament to human engineering philosophy. No elegant crystal spires or quantum matrices here. Instead, layers of advanced armor wrapped around redundant systems, multiple reactor cores, and enough firepower to crack a small moon. It wasn't beautiful, but it would survive. Status report, Maya ordered, her dark eyes scanning the holographic displays showing fleet activation progress. Her XO, Commander David Chen, quickly responded. Titan Base reports all ships operational. Europa Fleet is surfacing now. Mars Defense Grid online. We're looking at full combat readiness in 6 hours. The ships emerging from their hidden bases told humanity's story better than any history book. The Titan-class dreadnoughts, built inside Saturn's largest moon, carried rail guns that could accelerate projectiles to near-light speed. The Europa submarines-turned space warships were designed to operate in extreme conditions, their crews trained to fight even if every system failed. Each vessel represented a lesson learned from Earth's harsh environment. Assembly delegation is approaching Luna Base, David reported. You should see their faces when they realize what's been hiding under their quarantine all these years. The assembly ship that landed on Luna was a work of art, all flowing lines and shimmering force fields. Archive Master Zenaval stepped out first, her bioluminescent skin flickering with a mix of awe and apprehension as she took in the human facility. Behind her, a delegation of assembly leaders followed, each looking more shocked than the last. General Chen met them in the lunar conference room, her dress uniform crisp despite the low gravity. The wall screens showed the continuing fleet activation, hundreds of ships now visible in orbit around every major body in the solar system. Impossible. Third speaker, Quantum Prime, buzzed. Your civilization was monitored. We saw no signs of this level of advancement. You saw what we wanted you to see, General Chen replied calmly. Every primitive satellite was a sensor platform. Every clumsy space station housed a military core. While you watched our surface, we built our real civilization in the shadows. Maya watched the exchange from the Hyperion's bridge, transmitted in real time. She remembered growing up in the underground cities of Mars, training since childhood for this moment. Every human child knew the truth. They were preparing for a war that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Your ships, Zenaval observed, studying the tactical displays. They're so redundant. Multiple systems where one should suffice. Armor that must weigh more than our entire vessels. Because we build to survive, Maya responded over the comlink. On Earth, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So we plan for failure, prepare for disaster, and make sure we can keep fighting no matter what. The assembly delegation watched in stunned silence as more ships took position. The Neptune Defense Fleet, specialized in gravitational warfare. The Mercury Strike Force, their heat-resistant hulls capable of diving into a star if necessary. Each vessel represented a different aspect of humanity's determination to survive. But why? First speaker Helios asked, his corona dimming with confusion. Why build such a fleet in secret? Why prepare for a war that might never come? Because we remembered something you forgot, General Chen said. Peace isn't just about being peaceful. It's about being strong enough to defend that peace. Earth taught us that lesson the hard way. Maya ordered the Hyperion's main screen to show the approaching swarm. The living shadows were consuming their way through another star system, leaving nothing behind. Your weapons failed against them because you tried to destroy them. We built our weapons to endure them. The assembly leaders watched as human ships began combat drills. No elegant formations or precise maneuvers here. Instead, brutal efficiency and constant adaptation. Ships practiced fighting with damaged systems, crews trained to continue even if their technology failed. They feed on energy, Zenaval noted, studying the tactical data. Your physical weapons might actually work. More than that, Maya explained, bringing up weapon schematics. We've developed systems specifically designed to fight enemies that absorb energy. Kinetic kill vehicles, gravity manipulation, even weaponized entropy. Because on Earth, you don't just prepare for the enemies you know. You prepare for the ones you can imagine. The assembly delegation began to understand what they were seeing. This wasn't just a hidden fleet. It was the product of an entire civilization that had never stopped preparing for the worst. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic was designed by people who had evolved on a world that tried to kill them daily. How soon can you be ready? First speaker Helios asked, his voice heavy with the weight of billions of lives depending on their answer. General Chen smiled grimly. We've been ready for 300 years. The real question is, are you ready to see what humans can really do? Maya felt the excitement ripple through her crew as combat alerts began sounding throughout the fleet. The waiting was over. Now it was time to show the galaxy why Earth was called a death world. All ships, she ordered, her voice carrying to every vessel in the system. Battle stations. Operation Daybreak begins in 6 hours. The war to save the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity was ready to remind the universe why they had survived on their harsh world for so long. The assembly was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous species are the ones you try to contain. The Arcturus system burned. The swarm had already consumed 2 of its outer planets, their living shadows spreading across space like ink in water. But this time, they weren't meeting defenseless worlds. This time, humanity had arrived. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the Hyperion's bridge, watching the tactical display as the combined human assembly fleet took formation. The elegant assembly ships hung back, their crews still adjusting to human battle tactics. In contrast, Earth's vessels moved with predatory grace, their dark hulls absorbing local starlight. Multiple swarm signatures detected, Commander Chen reported, his hands dancing across the tactical console. They're adapting their formation. They've never seen ships like ours before. Good, Maya replied, a fierce smile crossing her face. Let's show them why. All ships, execute Operation Thunderstrike. The human fleet split into its component task forces, each group moving with practiced precision. The Hyperion led the main battle group straight toward the enemy center, while stealth squadrons from Europa base slipped through the darkness of space, their hybrid drives barely registering on sensors. From the assembly command ship, Archive Master Zena Val watched in fascination. Their tactics make no sense, she observed. No unified formation, no coordinated energy grid. Each ship group appears to be acting independently. Exactly. General Chen's voice came through the command channel. The swarm adapts to patterns, so we don't give them any patterns to adapt to. The first shots of the battle were not the elegant energy beams the assembly was used to. Instead, massive railgun rounds accelerated to relativistic speeds tore through space. The swarm's energy-absorbing fields meant nothing against pure kinetic force. The first volley caught them completely unprepared, tearing holes in their living ships. Direct hits confirmed, Commander Chen announced. They're responding. Energy surge detected. The swarm counterattack was devastating. Beams of pure darkness lanced out, attempting to drain the life from anything they touched. Assembly ships immediately began backing away, but the human fleet held its ground. Armor holding, Maya reported calmly as the Hyperion shuddered under the assault. Activating countermeasures. Small pods launched from the human ships, each containing a simple but brilliant invention, engineered bacteria that thrived on radiation mixed with heavy metals. As the swarm's energy beams hit these clouds, the bacteria absorbed and converted the energy, while the metals provided a physical barrier. Impossible, one of the assembly commanders whispered. They're using biological weapons in space. We use everything, General Chen explained. Earth taught us that survival means using every tool available. The Europa squadron struck next, emerging from their stealth approach to launch salvos of gravity torpedoes. These weapons didn't try to destroy the swarm ships. Instead, they created localized gravity wells that tore the living shadows apart through sheer tidal forces. Maya watched as the battle unfolded according to plan. Human ships fought in ways that defied conventional space combat doctrine. When their main weapons were damaged, they switched to backups. When systems failed, crews continued fighting manually. Every vessel was a testament to humanity's refusal to accept defeat. Swarm vessels are attempting to regroup, Commander Chen reported. They're learning, adapting their tactics. As expected, Maya nodded. Signal the Artemis group. Begin Phase 2. From the outer edges of the system, a new type of human ship approached. These vessels were smaller, faster, and carried a weapon the assembly had never imagined: quantum entanglement disruptors. The swarm learned and adapted by sharing information between ships. These weapons severed those connections, leaving each enemy vessel isolated and confused. Fascinating, Zenaval marveled. You're not just fighting their weapons, you're attacking their very nature. The battle shifted as the swarm began to fragment. Without their collective intelligence, individual ships fought erratically, making them vulnerable to concentrated attacks. The human fleet pressed the advantage, their coordinated strikes now facing disorganized resistance. But the swarm wasn't finished. The largest shadow ship, a behemoth that dwarfed even the Hyperion, began to pulse with dark energy. Space itself seemed to warp around it. Energy readings off the scale, Commander Chen warned. They're trying something new. All ships, brace for impact, Maya ordered. Activate the Prometheus protocol. The assembly commanders watched in horror as the swarm flagship released a wave of pure entropy, a weapon designed to accelerate time itself until everything it touched crumbled to dust. But humanity had planned for even this. The human fleet's ships suddenly began to glow, their hulls covered in a lattice of exotic matter that worked like temporal armor. It was technology reverse-engineered from Earth's study of black holes, the ability to create localized time distortions. You knew they could do this? Zenaval asked in amazement. We didn't know, General Chen corrected. But we imagined it. On Earth, if something can go wrong, it will. So we prepare for everything we can imagine, and then we prepare for things we can't. The battle reached its crescendo as human ships, their temporal shields holding, closed in for the kill. Rail guns fired their relativistic rounds, gravity torpedoes created killing fields of stretched space, and quantum disruptors shattered the swarm's collective consciousness. When it was over, the Arcturus system was scared but saved. The remaining swarm ships flowed into the darkness, leaving behind wreckage that defied physics itself. The assembly fleet emerged from their defensive positions, their crews still trying to process what they had witnessed. This is only the beginning, Maya announced to the combined fleet. The swarm will adapt to what we did here. But that's fine, because we'll adapt faster. That's what Earth taught us. That's what it means to be human. The assembly leaders finally understood what they were seeing. This wasn't just a military force. It was the product of a species that had turned their harsh world's lessons into strengths. Every defeat was a lesson, every challenge an opportunity to grow stronger. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had not just survived on their death world, but thrived. The war was far from over, but for the first time since the swarm appeared, hope burned brighter than fear. Deep within the transformed Luna base, human and assembly engineers worked side by side in a laboratory that represented the culmination of two vastly different technological philosophies. Captain Maya Rodriguez watched as crystalline quantum matrices were integrated with hardy human electronics, creating something entirely new. The swarm is evolving faster than we anticipated, Archive Master Zenaval announced, her bioluminescence pulsing with concern as she studied the latest battle data. They've developed countermeasures against our kinetic weapons. The temporal shells we encountered in the Proxima engagement nearly breached our strongest armor. The hologram showed footage from their recent battles. The swarm had learned from each defeat, adapting their living ships to resist human tactics. What had worked at Arcturus was now barely effective. But humanity had expected this. They had been preparing for an arms race since the war began. Show them the Prometheus project, General Chen ordered from her position at the head of the War Council. Maya nodded and activated a secure display, revealing schematics that made even the assembly's most experienced engineers pause in amazement. We're not just combining our technologies, Maya explained, highlighting key systems. We're creating something that's never existed before. The assembly's quantum engineering merged with human durability and redundancy. The prototype vessel hanging in lunar orbit was unlike anything either civilization had created before. Its hull incorporated living crystals that could heal damage, while maintaining the multiple layers of physical armor that human ships were known for. The weapon systems combined assembly energy manipulation with human kinetic innovation. Fascinating. Zenaval moved closer to the display, her four arms moving in complex patterns as she analyzed the design. You've integrated our quantum matrices into your backup systems, even if the advanced technology fails. The ship keeps fighting. Maya finished. That's the human way. We plan for failure, prepare for the worst, and make sure we can keep going no matter what. Commander David Chen entered the laboratory, his uniform showing signs of recent combat. The swarm has begun its push toward the Orion Arm, he reported grimly. 3 more assembly worlds have gone dark, but we've confirmed something interesting. They're avoiding direct confrontation with human ships. They're learning fear, General Chen observed. Good. That means they can be beaten. The war had changed both civilizations. Assembly ships now carried physical armor beneath their crystal hulls, while human vessels incorporated quantum technology that would have seemed like magic 3 months ago. But more than their ships had evolved, the people had changed too. Maya watched as an assembly engineer calmly helped repair battle damage on a human destroyer, his crystalline form adapting to work in the high radiation environment. Nearby, human technicians taught their alien counterparts how to maintain systems without relying on automated quantum controls. We've received word from the Europa Deep Labs, David announced. Project Lazarus is ready for testing. The assembled leaders moved to a secure viewing chamber. Through the reinforced windows, they could see a captured swarm vessel fragment suspended in a containment field. What happened next demonstrated just how far human ingenuity had come. Specialized nanomachines, developed using a combination of assembly quantum programming and human mechanical engineering, began to interface with the living shadow material. Instead of trying to destroy it, they began to communicate with it. The swarm operates on fundamental quantum principles, Zenaval explained to the human officers. But you've created something that speaks their language while maintaining physical form. It's elegant in its brutality. That's humanity for you, Maya smiled. We take what works and make it work better. Even if that means learning to talk to our nightmares. The project represented their greatest hope, not just to fight the swarm, but to understand them. The assembly had tried to defeat them with pure energy and quantum manipulation. Humans had fought them with physical weapons and tactical innovations. But this was something new, a way to potentially turn the swarm's own nature against them. "We've detected a massive swarm fleet moving through the Perseus Arm," David reported, bringing up the latest tactical data. "Largest concentration we've seen yet. They're not just adapting anymore. They're gathering for a decisive strike." General Chen studied the data with the calm demeanor that had guided humanity through the war so far. "Then it's time for Operation Prometheus to move forward. Captain Rodriguez, the prototype vessel is yours. Show us what the future of this war looks like." Maya felt the weight of history as she prepared to take command of humanity's most advanced warship. It represented everything they had learned, from surviving on Earth to fighting the swarm. But more than that, it represented hope. "The swarm thinks they've learned how we fight," she addressed the assembled leaders. "They think they can adapt to anything we throw at them. But they don't understand what makes humans different. We don't just adapt, we revolutionize. We don't just survive, we thrive. And we're about to show them why Earth's greatest gift to its children wasn't our strength or our technology. It was our creativity." As the prototype ship powered up its hybrid systems, Maya knew they were about to change the course of the war. The swarm had evolved to fight humans. Now they would face something that was neither human nor assembly, but something entirely new. The final battle was approaching, and humanity was ready to prove once again why they had survived every challenge their harsh world had thrown at them. The galaxy was about to witness the next evolution of warfare, and at its heart would be the species that had turned adversity into advantage, survival into strength, and fear into determination. The void between the Perseus and Orion arms blazed with the light of 10,000 suns. The largest swarm fleet ever detected poured through space like living darkness. Their ships now evolved far beyond their original forms. But waiting for them was humanity's answer to evolution, the combined might of two civilizations that had learned to turn their differences into strength. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, the prototype vessel that represented the pinnacle of human assembly cooperation. Its quantum-enhanced hull gleamed with the light of integrated crystal matrices, while beneath the surface, layers of advanced armor and redundant systems stood ready. "All ships report ready," Commander David Chen announced from his station. The tactical display showed the combined fleet in its full glory. Assembly vessels now bearing the marks of human engineering, human ships glowing with quantum enhancements, and between them, an entirely new class of hybrid warships. "The swarm is adapting even as we watch," Archive Master Zenaval reported, her bioluminescence steady with focused determination. "Their outer ships are already showing signs of temporal phasing." "Let them adapt," Maya replied with a grim smile. "That's what we're counting on." Operation Prometheus wasn't just a single ship or a new technology. It was humanity's greatest gambit. While the swarm had been evolving to counter every weapon used against them, humans and the assembly had been working on something far more fundamental. "All ships, commence Phase 1. General Chen's voice carried across the command channel. "Show them what evolution really means." The battle began not with an exchange of fire, but with a pulse of quantum energy so subtle that it seemed like a sensor ghost. The swarm ships at the front of their formation faltered, their living shadow material rippling with confusion. "Nanite swarms active," David reported. "Connection protocols executing." This was the true nature of Project Lazarus, not a weapon to destroy the swarm, but a key to unlock them. The nanomachines developed in the Europa Deep Labs weren't attacking the enemy ships. They were communicating with them, speaking in the fundamental language of quantum mechanics. "By all the stars," Zenaval whispered as data began flowing across her screens. "We're not just talking to them. We're waking them up." The swarm had evolved from something simpler, something that had been twisted and corrupted over eons of existence. The combined human assembly fleet wasn't fighting them. They were offering them a choice. But the swarm's central intelligence wasn't going to surrender its control easily. The massive flagship at the heart of their formation began to pulse with dark energy, preparing to unleash a weapon that could tear apart space itself. "All ships, execute maneuver Theta," Maya ordered. The fleet moved with practiced precision, implementing tactics that had been developed through countless simulations and battles. But this time, they weren't just fighting to destroy. They were fighting to save. The Prometheus led the charge, its hybrid systems performing beyond even their designers' expectations. When the swarm flagship unleashed its space-rending beam, the ship's quantum-enhanced armor didn't just resist. It absorbed and redirected the energy. Multiple swarm vessels showing signs of independence, David reported excitedly. The nanite protocol is working. They're breaking free. The battle became a race against time. As more swarm ships awakened to their own consciousness, the Central Intelligence fought back with increasing desperation. Space itself buckled under the forces being unleashed. Prometheus is taking heavy damage, Maya announced as her ship shuddered under another attack. But all systems are holding. We just need to reach their flagship. This was where humanity's philosophy of redundancy proved its worth. Even as advanced systems failed under the assault, backup systems kicked in. When quantum matrices overloaded, physical armor held. The ship continued to fight, continued to advance, embodying humanity's refusal to accept defeat. All ships, clear us a path, General Chen ordered. The combined fleet moved as one, assembly vessels providing quantum shielding while human ships delivered devastating kinetic strikes. The Prometheus pushed through the chaos, its mission clear. The final confrontation came not with a massive explosion or a dramatic battle, but with a simple connection. The Prometheus locked onto the swarm flagship with a quantum tether, and the nanite swarms made contact with the Central Intelligence. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, like a wave spreading across the cosmos, the swarm ships began to change. The living shadow material didn't vanish. Instead, it transformed. The corruption that had driven them to consume and destroy began to fade, replaced by something older, something that remembered its original purpose. They were meant to be creators. Val realized, reading the quantum data streaming from the transformed ships. Not destroyers. The corruption turned them into a weapon, but that was never their true nature. The battle ended not with the destruction of an enemy, but with the salvation of a species. The swarm ships, now freed from their corruption, hung in space like new stars, their living material radiating with possibilities instead of hunger. As the combined fleet regrouped and began the work of securing the transformed swarm vessels, Maya looked out at the battlefield that had become a birthplace. Humanity had come to this war ready to fight with everything they had, but in the end, they had won by doing what they did best: adapting, innovating, and finding a way to turn an enemy into an ally. The assembly was wrong about us, General Chen said later, addressing the combined fleet. They thought our harsh world had made us too dangerous to join galactic society. But Earth didn't just teach us how to fight. It taught us how to solve problems, how to think differently, how to turn challenges into opportunities. The war was over, but its legacy was just beginning. The assembly had learned that peace wasn't just about avoiding conflict. It was about being strong enough to face it when necessary. Humanity had proven that being forged in adversity didn't just create warriors. It created problem solvers, innovators, and ultimately, saviors. And the transformed swarm ships, they became a testament to the greatest lesson Earth had taught humanity: that survival isn't just about being the strongest or the most adaptable. Sometimes, it's about being wise enough to see beyond the battle, creative enough to imagine solutions others can't see, and brave enough to reach out to an enemy and offer them a chance at redemption. The galaxy would never be the same. But then again, change was something humanity had always been good at.